So I'm going to go through a whole bunch of websites and portals you can go through, you can use as you conduct your search. So I like to start out with name maps. So these are like surname maps, and what they do is they just show you the distribution of surnames throughout a territory. In this case, this is Poland. I've taken the name, the last name Makarevich there, and this gives us just something, right? Some kind of a starting point to figure out where we could look for documents. Again, here it'd be difficult to start with this because you've got a bunch of regions you can look at. But like I said, if all you have is a name, sometimes this is actually really good information. Feel free to combine these maps, right? So I've got on the left, I've got Germany, in the middle, I've got Poland, on the right, I've got Ukraine. And these maps are just kind of to dive in, right? To just get right into it. You've got a name, well, you can do a lot with that, right? So you can at least get started, and this gives you a pretty good, at least idea of some kind of distribution. And it's important because you don't want to be looking in an area where there's no chance of finding anything. So this is a good way to start. So the first thing is the real first resource is, of course, Google. No matter who you're looking for, whether it's a celebrity or it's just a regular person or someone from your family or whatever, just Google it. You'd be surprised. Sometimes you'll find something useful that might jump out at you, and you might be surprised. The second thing is digital libraries. So this is not exactly like a lot of people in the U.S., for example, might be thinking of like a, I think it's called like a cat or basically card catalog. Where you can look for books and you can figure out, okay, there's a book in whatever New Jersey, and I can go to the library and I can get it. What's great about digital library is it actually lets you read the material on the internet. Usually this is public domain stuff, or it's like old newspapers and things like that, but really useful for people searches. So I tend to make use of this. I think this one specifically lets you do full text searches, which is amazing because, I mean, come on, you can, search an entire phone book, you can search directories, you can search newspapers, really useful way to approach it. And they often let you download the entire document. So if you want to like build a database or something, I think that might be one approach to getting some really interesting data. All right, number 3 is a Genealogy Indexer. This is a massive collection of phone books and directories and all kinds of different collections of people and addresses and things. Just to give you an example, I use this to find my grandfather's like 1960s Warsaw telephone number and address and everything. So I know it works. I verified it. Number 4 is PimEyes. So this is a reverse image search engine. It's different than other reverse search engines because it actually looks for the person based on their face. It doesn't look for similar images or some garbage like that. So when you want to find a person, if you're lucky enough to have a photo of that person and that photo happens to be in high enough quality, you can definitely consider using something like this. I've used it with this. I didn't have any luck with this person that I'm looking for, but when I was looking for just, I was conducting a test, I took a random photo of a family from like the 1930s, and I was able to find a bunch of photos that I had no idea that existed of those people using PimEyes. And it has a demo version, so it's worth a check. Forbes.io is a site that globally gives you a name distribution, essentially, right? So any name, first name or last name, or as they call them, forenames and surnames, it will give you some information back about it, unless it's so rare that there's only like 1% of that name. Okay. So next, this is really for Poland, really only. A lot of these are just for kind of Poland based. That's where I'm based out of. This is the IPN search, so it's the Institute of National Remembrance, and this is generally like, I believe it's like if people were working for the security services or the military administration during, I think it's just during communism, but it might have been earlier, but I believe it's the post-war era. You just put in the person's name and you see if there are any records. I don't think you can actually access like the records themselves, but this might be a helpful way if you're stuck. If you have like a person's first and last name and their like father's name, you just want to verify like their birthday. This is a pretty good way to do that. Getting a little bit darker here, this is a database of the victims of the 1943 Volhynia Massacre. If you don't know about that, you can go ahead and read about it. What's really cool about this actually is that it's very useful for figuring out if you lost any family in this, or also just for building that family tree. Because again, this does include some biographical information that might be helpful that might not be in any other source. This is a useful site. It's called Strata.pl, and it's basically looking for people that have been persecuted by like the German occupying force in Poland, and it's quite useful, really. I found something that I had been looking for a long time, and this is the way that I found it, was through this this search engine. Very useful. Just be aware that there are typos, of course, in all these databases. Are going to be typos, so just keep an open mind. Try to always search with a couple different terms. So if you, for example, have all of this information, sometimes leave parts of it out. So use the first name and then use the last name, use the last name and use the birth date, etc. Eventually you'll get lucky. I had with this, I had a really good story where I was looking for a person, and didn't I didn't think of this until later, that maybe the city is misspelled, and so I searched for everything except the city. I didn't put the city in, and I found that the city had actually been misspelled in the database. It had been spelled as a name that doesn't even exist as a city. Usenet archives is pretty useful, but it's probably not so useful for like super old historical stuff. But if you're looking for anything like the 90s or the 80s, maybe even, you might be able to find it here. Or maybe you want to just find out about some article that was on a link somewhere. Okay, then we've got, then we've got, so 1 second. Okay, then we've got the Wayback Machine. So this is just the Internet Archive. It's just a gigantic collection of, of data that you can search. And I don't know how helpful it is for historical data, but again, it's just another resource you can use. Twitter search, I haven't had a lot of luck with this, but this is something that you could think might be useful. Generally, it just allows you to search, all the tweets. I'm not sure if it lets you search all the tweets forever, or what kind of range it's letting you search. I think the way that this would be helpful is if you have a name and you have nothing else, and maybe you want to see, has anyone linked any articles to that name, is anyone talking about any specific cities, etc. Wikipedia is a good source. It's not a very good source for searching for like your family, because your family's probably not made up of a bunch of famous people like artists and authors and stuff, just probably regular people. But in case you just want a little bit of information about a name that you're having a lot of difficulty with, maybe the country where that name is common, or professions that name is associated with, etc. This might be a helpful way. This is another one, Polish one. This is the Ministry of Justice. This is simply a commercial research engine. So if you're looking for either people that own businesses or have businesses registered under their name, this is some way to get a start. I've used this a lot. This is genealogical. This is basically a search engine for genealogy, and it's free, and you don't have to register. So I really like that part, and it contains millions of records. So I think it's very useful. I've used it to get really far in a lot of projects I've been working on. Definitely recommend. Check it out. This is the Internet Archive. So it's the Polish Internet Archive, and they've got, I think, a couple million um, examples of photography, documentation, documents, all that stuff. So this is really a very useful tool for your search. You can also find directories, address books, things like that. This is an interesting project. This is a database of 5.5 million signatures. I'm not sure if they're all digitized or not, but basically it came about when Poland wanted to kind of show its solidarity with the U.S. In 1926, and so they passed around this book, or several volumes, I guess, to across all over the country, and they just asked people to, I think it was students and teachers and administrators and stuff, to just sign these books, and then all these volumes together were, put on a ship and sent over to the U.S. And fortunately, that happened before World War II, and then now we have a record of all these people that maybe they're only in this book. When you're conducting your search for people, you might want to look for their graves. So this is a helpful site. It's called GroveNet. genealogy.com, and you can go there, put in the person's name, put in the city, and sometimes useful, sometimes not. There's different sites that seem to have different sets of data. There isn't really, it doesn't seem like there's one site you can go to that has all the listings. Again, this is Poland specific. I'm sure there's ones for each country. There's another one, Social Security Death Index. So if you know that you're looking for someone that maybe was either died in before 2014 or between 62 and 2014, or just you want to get somewhere, right? You're completely out of ideas. You want to get in some direction, go in some direction. This might be a useful approach. Also, Poland specific. This is a National Criminal Register. You can't really use this for anything. The only thing you can use this for is if you want to look up yourself. But I don't know how helpful that would be if you're looking for other people. But I just want to let you know that's there. Okay, so this is mislabeled here. This is not the National Criminal Register. This is the index of people that have been persecuted. This is, I believe, like Soviet persecution during World War II. So they have like 300,000 records, so definitely worth a look. But the address below is correct. So this is the Holocaust Survivors and Victims database. I haven't had a lot of use for this. I've tried using it, but I just don't really get the matches I'm looking for. So it might work better for you. Perhaps I need to learn better how to use it, but generally, you know, it's worth a try. This is the Military Historical Office. So what this lets you do, I find it really useful for my searches. Right there where you see Shufladka, you just put in the generally the initials, or not the initials, but the first letters of the surname you're looking for. And what that's going to do, that going to do is it's going to provide you with hundreds of military registration cards. They were basically these index cards that people would fill in, I think when they joined the military, or when they were requesting to get some kind of award or something, whatever it was. But these cards have been very helpful to verify different data from different data sets. Give an example, like I had a card that verified, the name of the person, the birth date of the person, the birthplace of the person, the parents of the person. So very helpful and free. And I don't think you even have to register. So these are Arlson archives. So this is like sort of like the persecuted by the Soviets, but this is persecuted by the Germans during World War II. I think it's super helpful. It's got tons of records. Take a look at that. You're bound to find something. This is the passenger search. This is kind of your standard Ellis Island type of search. You're going to get a little bit of information. You're going to get the year they arrived. You're going to get maybe the place where they lived. It's a problem with Poland because a lot of times, for a long time, Poland was kind of under occupation, literally. It was, I mean, it wasn't even on the map for 123 years. And so, like you see this, it's his last place of residence, Russia. I mean, how helpful is that, right? Like Russia is literally massive. So that's not really going to be very helpful, but for some cases, maybe it'll be helpful. I usually use sites like this just really to verify something else. It's not really as a central source. This I put up here just because I wanted to see if something like this even exists. It turns out it does. So there's this database of cold cases. Looks pretty distributed. Three countries outside the U.S., 46 states, 50 Florida counties. So it seems to be a pretty wide range of places. And maybe this will help, maybe it won't, but I just thought it was something useful to put up there as just another resource that's out there. This is an interesting way to look for people. It is using the unclaimed assets search. So, of course, if you're looking for unclaimed assets, you can use this, but if you're looking for someone else, it's definitely helpful because you're going to be told exactly where they are. So, again, use this please for only legal purposes, nothing sinister. Search Tempest, real quick, this is just for searching like Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, stuff like that. I'm not sure how helpful it would be for like historical person search, but I'm trying to throw everything out there for you. Elefine.com supposedly lets you search a bunch of, like it says 3 million newspapers, but I haven't had a lot of luck using it. It seems to be really focused on the U.S. As far as I understand, so maybe I got to get better at searching it, but Elefine.com, check it out. Maybe it'll be helpful. I know there's also newspapers.com, which isn't in this presentation. This is another Poland one. It's called Book of the Dead. It's basically just looking for, I think, death notices, or I'm not sure if it's both, but death notices or graves. Pretty helpful. and worth a look. Definitely free, no registration required. You can just start using it. I believe it should be able to help you. Um, if you're lucky, it's going to have the birth date and the death date, not just like the name, which would be really not helpful at all. This is Jewish cemetery search, so there's a positive and a negative. So the positive is that they did this, that they went through what was it, 1800 or something cemeteries, and they cataloged whatever was left of their. Some of these are cemeteries that have like 3 gravestones only because the rest were hauled away or buried or whatever else. The downside of this is that the search feature isn't very helpful. It'll return return results for searches that really have nothing to do with what you're looking for. So their search is very fuzzy. This is like the Auschwitz search. So this is for searching for prisoners. This is just, especially if you're doing historical stuff, World War II stuff. This is worth a check. You never know. There might be somebody in there that's in that database from your search. This is also I put this in here because people are surprised that this even exists. This is actually, you can find out if someone was a guard at the camps. So I think that will definitely add some color to the history of whatever you're researching. Okay, this is not just specific to Poland, it's specific to a former, I guess, region of Poland. This is Volhynia Massacre, so you can put in your names, cities, different combinations. It's free. You don't have to register. I found it pretty helpful. There's a couple records I found that I wouldn't have found anywhere else. This is literally the only place I can find them, so very helpful for me. If you had any family or if the target that you're looking for is in this area, then that's a good place to look. Another site I hadn't had much luck with, but you can try it. Jewish Gen. It's free, but there's a extensive registration process, and go through that, and then you can use the site. They've got a lot of results. They've got a lot of records, but yeah, just try your luck. For me, it's been kind of hit or miss. This is another one. This is back to, we were talking about digital libraries. This is a federated digital library. So the only drawback here with this one is that it doesn't give you full text search. So you can search titles and things. So for example, if you're searching for like Warsaw phone book of 1939, then you can definitely use this to find that phone book and then probably download it and then do some data processing on it. So when we're looking for people, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're gathering evidence closest to the source, right? So whoever told us about this person, try to ask them as much information as possible in order to get that structure set, that foundational structure set in your data, so you can go with some purpose. If you're doing research in Poland, the one thing I do recommend for sure is if you're looking for a family member, the best thing you can do is put in a request for birth, marriage, and death certificates. That's a good way to start. You want to have those kind of really concrete documents before you get started on any search, if possible.